Ladies and gentlemen, very dear, very old friends, it's just great to be amongst you. Excellencies, of course, distinguished guests. Colleagues, friends, it's an honour to host today with the Global Renewables Alliance and the Climate Group for this high-level opening of the Global Renewables Summit. To begin, to turn to 5 leaders whose voices and actions are critical in determining the pace and direction of the global energy transition, so critical to all of us, and fortunately so economically sound. First, it is my pleasure to introduce a lady of great vision, foresight, courage. I have no idea how Ursula von der Leyen juggles a large family, a large suite of nations. I'm not sure who squabbles more, the kids or the countries of the EU, but Ursula, you bring them all together. We're very, very proud to have you here. Her Excellency Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission. President von der Leyen is leading Europe's bold shift to renewables, anchored by the proposed climate law to cut 90% of Europe's emissions by 2040. Driving a restructure of Europe's energy system and industry, the President is setting a new global benchmark for ambition and delivery and defining what it means to be a major economy to commit at green energy scale. And from a personal perspective, we watch Europe very closely and we are watching technologies even closer. The technologies, Madam President, are very much on your side. The cost of renewable energy is falling. It is democratic. It is not a fossil fuel where you're just lucky to be born over the top of an oil and gas deposit. The most undemocratic selection possible. Renewable energy is everywhere. And Madam President, I welcome you to the stage. We are in deep respect of your leadership.
Thank you very much, dear Andrew Forrest, Prime Minister Davis, Ambassador Correo del Lago, Excellencies. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your kind words. Indeed, it's a pleasure to open this session of the renewable energy abundance. And I think, as you said, our discussion is very timely because the energy transition has truly taken off. Let me give you some figures. In 2024, last year, almost $2 trillion were invested worldwide in clean energy. And for every euro or dollar spent on fossil fuels, more than 2 went into clean energy. And the economic case is clear. You just said it, Andrew, that the renewables are so much cheaper. 90% of new renewable projects generate power more cheaply than fossil fuels. And solar is now 41% cheaper than the lowest cost fossil alternative. So yes, the momentum is real. But we all know in this room that momentum alone is not enough. You need action. So to usher in a true age of renewable abundance with clean, affordable energy for all, we must act decisively. We must act as governments and industry, and we must act together cross borders, cross continents. Clean energy is not only about addressing climate change, it is, in my view, also about energy security, and it is about prosperity. So I want to focus in these opening words on 3 points. The first is the transformation that is underway in Europe. The second are the partnerships we're building across continents. And the third point is what more we must do together globally. So first of all, if you look at Europe's experience, before the war in Ukraine, 45% of our gas supply came from Russia. 50% of our oil supply and 50% of our coal. 8 weeks into the war, Russia cut us off the gas from one day to the next. And as you recall, we faced a severe energy crisis. Now, Russia wanted to put pressure on us that we do not support Ukraine. You know, the opposite happened. We're staunch supporters of Ukraine. And our response to this energy crisis was not to retreat, but to accelerate. We diversified and we doubled down. We massively invested in renewable energy. And we knew this was not only good for the climate, but because the renewables are the most secure and affordable option in the long term, we knew this is homegrown energy, so invest in it. It also creates good jobs at home. 3.5 years on, today almost half of Europe's power comes from renewables. Solar and wind are our fastest growing sources of energy. And with our Clean Industrial Deal, we are mobilizing over 100 billion euros to help industries innovate and adapt. So my message is we are staying the course. And this ambition and the stability is attracting capital. These days, stability and predictability are very important values. Investments in renewables grew by 63% this year alone. But we know that more has to be done. For example, we have to invest heavily in our grids, in the interconnectors, so that the benefits of clean, affordable energy can reach every corner of our union and the energy is flowing to where it is needed the most. My second point is our work with partners. Greater independence does not mean isolation. Across continents, new connections are being built. Let me give you 2 examples. We have the Elmet interconnector between Italy and Tunisia. That will be the first direct current link between Europe and Africa. And in North Africa, indeed, projects such as the ones that are championed by you, dear Andrew, are creating kind of a green corridor for clean industry and hydrogen. And these projects are true win-win-win. They deliver on our climate goals. They create good jobs on both continents. And they strengthen energy security. And that's why the energy transition should be at the heart of our international agenda. We, as Europeans, are contributing to that through Global Gateway. Global Gateway is our investment program abroad in infrastructure, which mobilizes 300 billion euros by 2027. And this is about long-term partnership that can deliver change on the ground. Give you an example. In the Caribbean, for example, hydrogen technologies are stabilizing renewable power supply. Or in Kenya, we're investing 3.4 billion in climate and nature projects to support the government's goal, that is very ambitious, to be 100% clean power by 2030. These are just a few examples, but our approach is very simple. As we share the same interests and ambitions, we want to work together with you. And that brings me to my third point, what we can do more globally. Earlier this year, we launched on the global stage the Global Energy Transition Forum. This is a place to work together as partners. As you might recall, we have promised on a global stage that we want to triple renewable energy by 2030, and we want to double the energy efficiency. So this forum is to sustain political momentum and to track the delivery of our commitments, because it's good to have a goal, but only what gets measured gets done. We all know this by experience. So we're keeping track in this forum, all of us together, that we really deliver on the ground. And that means working very closely with industry and investors. And therefore, I'm so grateful, Andrew, that you convene us here today. It's really to unlock renewable projects in developing countries. We know the barriers. We know that the barriers are high capital costs, the barriers are risk premiums or unstable investment conditions, but we can, of course, de-risk. We can blend, we can leverage, and the de-risking by the public side is of utmost importance. So my message to you, the CEOs and investors that are here today, is please tell us what you need, what guarantees, what risk-sharing tools, or what is the regulatory conducive environment that you need, we can provide, that will allow you to invest at scale where it matters most. And what must governments do to help you deliver? And in return, of course, we ask you to put your capital, your technologies, your innovation to work in the regions where it will have the greatest impact, so that together we deliver on net zero, strengthen energy security, and that together we drive prosperity. Because only if the benefits are truly global can we speak of a new age of renewable abundance. So thank you very much, and I'm very much looking forward to work together with you. Thank you for your patience, and I wish you all a good session here for the renewables globally. Thank you so much.
Well done, my dear. Fantastic. Really great work. Okay. Thank you. I now have the distinct pleasure of inviting to the stage His Excellency Philip Davis, the Prime Minister of Bahamas. We just spoke, sir. You're an erudite, very forward-leaning Prime Minister. We're delighted to have you. Prime Minister Davis speaks for those nations most at risk from rising seas and intensifying weather brought on by the ever-worsening effects of climate change. And you, sir, just described the immense vulnerability and the change you're seeing in your own lifetime to the borders of your country, are incredible injustice. As Chair, sir, of the High Ambition Coalition, you are putting your island and all island sovereign states at the centre of global negotiations. And at home, you're leading green energy policies, which I fervently support, that are, of course, now leading the world. Your advocacy is showing us the direction we must take. Prime Minister, it is impossible to ignore the human stakes at the centre of this crisis. I know we can solve it economically, but we must solve it for humanity, and sir, you lead the way. May I welcome you to the stage, Prime Minister Davis.
Good morning, and thank you very much to Madam President von der Leyen and to all those here present. Earlier in my exchange, and perhaps just to put in context, the Bahamas is an archipelago. I often deem it an ocean state. An archipelago spread over 140,000 plus square miles of pristine water. One of our islands, one called Andros, is said to be the ecosystem for most marine, about 30 to 40% of marine life in the world. More than 80% of my landmass is less than 10 feet above sea level. During my own lifetime, I've seen the seas swallowing up some of the land that I once knew on one of the islands, particularly the island in which I grew up. And so we got to one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to the issue of climate change. So it's good to be here today, this morning, distinguished partners, and I call it distinguished partners in progress. And I can't help but think that me being here is somewhat unlikely. As I indicated, I grew up on one of what we call our family of islands in the Bahamas, and that island is Cat Island, which just happens to be the most beautiful spot on earth. And I said most, because I don't want to temper my claim by allowing any possibility of rivals for that honor. I say only come for a visit and see for yourself. Now, Cat Island is one of the many islands in our archipelago. It may be small. That's where I grew up. But that never stopped me from dreaming big. However, addressing a room full of distinguished leaders, innovators, and investors about clean energy abundance, I do admit this was well outside the scope of my then imagination. And yet, here we are. Together, we are here because we share a sense of urgency and a sense of possibility. We know of failure to create renewable energy abundance in the coming years could easily be catastrophic. But we see also that a future characterized by energy abundance can be one of great flourishing, a new era of progress in which we can all move forward together. Many of you are working hard to create this future, and because of your work, clean energy technology is improving, and the competitiveness and economics of renewables are improving too. In the Bahamas, we initiated and are now overseeing my country's first comprehensive nationwide energy reforms, which is to say that I know firsthand the complexity of the challenges and the sweat and tears still required to overcome them. We needed to modernize our country's energy laws and regulations. We needed to take into account the diverse energy needs of a population scattered across an archipelago. We needed to upgrade our grid so that it can transmit solar energy. And we needed to confront the reality of energy generation itself, shifting away from near total dependence on imported fossil fuels. The IMF has described our reform efforts as ambitious and positive, noting their potential to strengthen resilience and competitiveness while addressing long-standing vulnerabilities that existed. That independent valuation reminds us that while the path is difficult, it is also the right one to take. We are confident that energy reform will transform communities and our economy, but the path is not easy. And like everyone else, we will continue to navigate technical and supply chain challenges. The biggest challenges for countries like ours, though, are financial. 4 Category 4 and Category 5 hurricanes over the course of less than a single decade took billions out of our economy, making it difficult, ironically, to invest in our energy transition and in climate resilience. We are carrying the burden of storms already endured, while also paying for those yet to come. The toll is not only measured in billions of dollars in damages, but also in the higher interest rates and insurance premiums that reflect the risk we live with every day. These challenges are playing out in many nations, particularly small island developing states like ours. So how can we accelerate a global transition to renewable energy abundance? I want to suggest one important piece of the puzzle, which is to reframe the climate debates. We need to be the most passionate and effective evangelists for the proposition that energy reforms will expand our possibilities, not limit them. We need decision makers everywhere to understand that replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy will not come at the expense of prosperity, but a prerequisite for future prosperity. We will never unlock the full potential of clean energy abundance if the stories we tell focus on scarcity and sacrifice. Instead, let's do a better job at painting a vivid picture for our citizens of a future in which clean energy generates prosperity that is broadly shared. Climate justice, a moral force, maintains a moral force. The clarity of who is responsible should never be left behind. It remains true that countries like mine, we who have contributed the least to climate change, are suffering its worst impacts. Yet, we have seen the limits of what can be achieved when the climate story is focused too narrowly on blame. Zero-sum moralizing, in which for me, to win, you must lose, is counterproductive in a world in which citizens of even the wealthiest nations feel that the social contract is broken, and rising costs and diminishing opportunities are fueling what I call political rage. It calls for climate justice. If calls for climate justice are only demands for accountability about past wrongs, we'll find it very difficult to create a more just future. If we are serious about unlocking trillions in public and private investment, we need to make sure ordinary people everywhere understand that a cleaner, healthier, less expensive future is within reach. We can build a future with cleaner air and water, with cleaner, lower energy bills, with health improvements, with reduced climate migration, with reduced dependence on imported fuels, with food and water security. We can do those things. And when enough citizens in enough countries understand this, we make it more likely the policy and regulatory continuity that investors rightly seek. Because the unpredictability of policy and regulatory regime is a disincentive to investors. We can make the political costs. I think this is an important point. Once our citizens, enough of them understand the benefit of what we are achieving here. If enough of them do, we make the political costs of canceling or unwinding renewable energy gains so unpalatable as to be unthinkable. If we invest in stories to get the message out, if we invest in stories to get the message out, just a fraction of what we invest in solar panels and turbines and batteries, we can bend the arc of history towards a time of renewable energy abundance. If there's one lesson I hope you take from the Bahamas, is that progress is possible even under the hardest conditions. We know the work of energy reform is complex, expensive, and at times overwhelming. Yet we also know that every panel installed, every regulation modernized, every grid upgraded, moves us closer to a world where energy abundance is real. The point is not perfection. The point is progress. And the belief that by working together, each step we take strengthens the chances of success for us all. I conclude with gratitude for the progress we have made and hope that much more will be made in the days to come. And with your minds put together, we no doubt will achieve what we expect to achieve. I want to thank you for allowing me this brief moment to discuss the Bahamas with you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Davis Erudite. Your words are powerful. I honour your leadership, and as you are on the front line of the crisis, your voice makes clear what is at stake for the most vulnerable. Excellencies, it is easy to feel despair. You feel the winds blowing hard against you, particularly in the local environments here. I assure you that staying in the course is the right course. To use your words, Prime Minister, that arc of history is with you. Technologies are with you. Sustainable energy is infinite. War rages, the planet heats, and institutions in your country strain. So, Excellencies, it is fine to feel that despair. I feel it as well from time to time when utterances from leaders make clear that they do not support renewable energy, that they want to put their people into a race with a bet on only one horse. It is easy to slip back into thinking we won't get there. But I assure you, leaders, we will. There is no doubt, as Prime Minister Davis said, that arc of history is powerful, and renewable energy is coming in a way that is 24/7, baseload power, and cheaper energy than the world has ever enjoyed. Yes, we do face outdated mandates, growing distrust in a fragmenting world, but economics will glue that multilateralism back together again. Economics of renewable energy is seeing collaboration, which I personally experienced between North American firms, European firms, Chinese firms, Australian firms, everywhere, and we come together for a common cause, and that is to defeat fossil fuel, to face into the elephant in this room, which is the carbon dioxide of our energy emissions. When you see the world aflame and in despair, despair, as you know, leaders, is not leadership. Fear has never built anything. We're here today to lead by your very example, to lead by our combined very example, to prove with courage, with action, as you said, Madam President, hope will never be lost. The solutions of our age are not theoretical. Fortescue is proof. Our massive fossil fuel burning company right now will be zero emissions by 2030. This is economic, ladies and gentlemen. This is not philanthropic. I speak with His Excellency Prime Minister Rudd, Minister Bowen, as a very proud Australian. We're land shaped by principle, by pragmatism, and I speak of that new multilateralism, one that brings public ambition and expertise together for green energy. Let's speak plainly, without ending fossil fuels, there will be no lasting stability. And the news is good. The economics are with us. Green energy, as I mentioned, is everywhere. It's not your lucky ticket lottery of birthright being born on top of a deposit of oil. You feel it every day on your face, your skin, the wind blowing through your hair. It is the financially sensible decision, 24/7 green power. The markets themselves are already signalling the end of fossil fuels. Solar costs down by 90% since 2010, wind 70%, batteries 89%. We feel this because we're in the market, we're developing these technologies, and we're buying these technologies. Green steel in Japan, soon to be green iron and green steel in Australia. Green ammonia in India, green technology from China, green tech, where we collaborate from technology from Europe, from everywhere, from North America and China, to build out the most efficient systems collaboratively, ignoring the breakdown of multilateralism, which we see politically. We face into it as business people, knowing what's best for the world. So fossil fuel demand, ladies and gentlemen, is in structural decline. You'll see evidence everywhere before this decade is out. And for industry, the choice is not ideological, it is practical. Lead the transition or be overtaken by it. Here in New York, we're showing that real zero, ladies and gentlemen, as a marine ecologist, net zero setting off your carbon emissions so you can keep carbon emitting is not your long-term solution. The science is catching up with you, the facts are plain. But also the technologies and economics that you are better off just replacing your systems completely with renewable energy and not bothering with offsets. It just delays the transition, but the real elimination of fossil fuels is with us, and green technology is at our doorstep. I want to give you proof, ladies and gentlemen. At Pier 36, a mere walk from here, the ship, the Green Pioneer, the Fortescue Green Pioneer, sailed into the lion's den of no renewables in this country, thank you. And there it is, an industrial ship, working ship, running on ammonia. The beautiful thing about ammonia, ladies and gentlemen, is that it contains more hydrogen molecules in a cubic metre than a cubic metre of hydrogen itself. It's a very effective, slow-burning and powerful fuel. And Fortescue is looking at powering all its shipping, some 200 million tonnes a year. And of course, when we do that, the largest shipping industry in the world, which is metals, will follow suit. I applaud the International Maritime Organisation for its leadership, and we put the Green Pioneer in front of all their meetings to prove pollution-free shipping, steel, industry, mining is here. Just outside this room is the Formula E car, shows that racing battery technology is not only the most efficient, fastest cars on earth, but is also powering companies who have trucks with hubcaps almost up to this roof. Heavy industry is following suit with this. These are not concepts, they work today. My company is proof. So, yes, I'm very pleased to launch the next edition of the Climate Transition Plan. It shows we deliver these ambitions and more, putting words into action. Excellencies, new and brave targets in Australia, in Europe and beyond, drives deployment. Technology can only do so much, industry can only do so much. In the end, it's the power of policies from governments which shape industry, which shape your future. Governments stand with us, industry is standing with you. We must build this global partnership that binds innovation governments to manufacturing east and west to deliver rapid decarbonisation, to build this prosperity, not just share it, build it. It's about courage, it's about science. In an age of disruption, these principles must endure. Leadership by action. Please reject anything which stands in the road of this. It is the right of every citizen to have the lowest cost of energy, and an energy which will not harm their children. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I just say this. I am honoured to be here. I feel that Bruce Douglas, Chief Executive of the Global Renewable Alliance, can now take this message on. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the great leaders in this room. As I have said, Madam President, industry stands very stoically, proudly, and at great height to force through the economics of global renewables. But we cannot do it without knowing that government is on our side. We cannot work against government. Government policy is so critical, and your courage of leadership is paramount. Bruce Douglas leads the alliance of wind, solar, hydrogen, geothermal sectors with one clear goal: to triple renewable capacity worldwide by 2030. Bruce, I think we're going to smash that. Please, Bruce, continue turning pledges into projects and ensuring global industry delivers the scale the world requires, the scale which your children must have to be able to breathe, to be able to enjoy and thrive the climate which we have now, and to turn back the insidious threat of global warming through the power of prosperity, building prosperity around the world, keeping economic multilateralism at the forefront. Bruce.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you, Madam President. I know you have to leave. Thank you so much for being here for the second year running. It's so valuable. The power of your message goes way beyond this room. Thank you so much. I was going to thank Andrew for his optimism about smashing the tripling target. Myself and my dear friend Francesco, maybe not as optimistic. But Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second Global Renewables Summit. I express my deep gratitude to the heads of state and leaders here today. Your leadership, highlighted in the statement this morning, sends a powerful signal far beyond this room. It tells the world that the renewable revolution is not a distant ambition. It is a positive reality and a defining priority of our time. I'd also like to thank the Climate Group for including our summit as a flagship event in their incredible New York Climate Week program. As George Bernard Shaw said, the people who say it can't be done should not interrupt the people who are doing it. And make no mistake, the energy transition is happening. Over 90% of new power additions last year were renewable. This cuts annual fossil fuel bills by over $460 billion. This record growth is matched by over 20 years of rising investment in renewables, hitting over $700 billion in 2024, according to Bloomberg NEF. The reason for this, as stated, is economics. The case for renewables is stronger than ever. It is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And the countries and companies who are investing in future-proof renewable energy are now reaping significant benefits. And for that reason, we placed an advert in the New York Times this morning stating jobs, security, and growth. Firstly, jobs. Renewable energy already employs nearly 16 million people worldwide, creating 3 times more jobs per dollar than fossil fuels. It is set to employ 38 million people by 2030. Secondly, security. Clean, cheap, and homegrown renewables shield us from insecure, volatile, and non-renewable fossil fuels. And finally, growth. Renewable energy drove 10% of global GDP growth last year, powering prosperity and competitiveness in the EU, in the Bahamas, in Indonesia, in Australia, and beyond. And may I mention Brazil, dear Ambassador. The question is not whether the electric revolution is happening, but rather how fast and who will lead. So the GRA is calling on world leaders today to deliver 3 decisive actions. Firstly, set ambitious national renewable energy targets aligned with the 2030 global tripling goal. I look forward to Wednesday's NDCs. Second, make grids and storage of all durations, short and long duration, a political and economic priority, and not a technical afterthought. Let's take grids and storage from Baku to Belém and beyond. Last but not least, close the financing gap by de-risking and cutting the cost of capital in emerging markets so every region can benefit. Now imagine the speed, scale, and benefits we could achieve with ambitious national targets, positive regulations, and bold public investments. And rest assured, the private sector is all in. 75% of renewable energy investments in the past decade came from the private sector. And in a recent poll, 97% of executives back a fossil-free power sector. The corporate executives around a table are proof of that leadership. And the path is now clear. We need to phase out volatile fossil fuels and deliver renewable energy abundance. This is how we create prosperity, stability, and real energy security. If we want to build the clean, resilient, and competitive energy system of the future, we must all come together, stand up, and act now. Thank you very much. I'd now like to call on Dr. Mike Rann, who's the chair of the Climate Group. Mike, thank you so much for hosting us here today. It's a pleasure to be here, and your support, both in the event but also on the advert, are so valuable. Thank you.
Much, Bruce, and to Andrew, to, of course, Mr. Davis, Prime Minister, so wonderful to have you here with us, to His Excellency, the Special Envoy for Climate for Indonesia, Hashim, and also all the other distinguished visitors here. Particularly, I'd like to mention a very old friend of mine, Kevin Rudd, Australia's ambassador to the United States, and also former Prime Minister of Australia. So thank you everyone for being here. On behalf of the Climate Group, I'd like to welcome you to Climate Week New York City. It's my pleasure to be here as chair, and I'd like to thank our partners for this event, Dr. Andrew Forrest and Bruce Douglas from the Global Renewables Alliance, for helping to bring you all to the opening ceremony. I've known Andrew Forrest for a number of years. I just want to say this, I'm not usually known for great praise, but there's no other business leader in Australia that has done more, not just as an advocate for green energy, but also as an investor in green energy. Multiple billions invested of his own money in basically acting, not talking. This event is a reminder of the importance of partnerships. Despite the choppy political waters that we're currently experiencing, we're all in this room because we recognise that we stand on the edge of incredible opportunity to chart the next phase of the global energy transformation, scaling the innovations that will deliver new economic opportunities around the world. I chaired a session earlier this morning. The message from business was that they were staying the course, but also they wanted all of us to talk about not just being good for climate, but good for business, good for making profits for business, and that the two things are mutually reinforcing, not exclusive of each other. At Climate Group, we work with businesses to drive climate action fast, whether that is through commitments to purchasing renewable energy, electric vehicles, lower emissions steel and concrete, or more sustainable food products. Our aim is to empower businesses to make a positive impact. We also work with subnational governments. We have 185 subnational governments which are part of our Under 2 coalition on every continent of the world. That's how I got involved with the Climate Group. I was the Premier for nearly 10 years of South Australia. When I joined the Climate Group, we had about 0 renewable energy in South Australia. I'm really pleased that in 2027, 100% of South Australia's electricity will be powered by renewables, with also a commensurate massive drop in emissions. It can be done. Everybody told me it couldn't be done, and we did so in the face of a climate-denying federal government. Sitting in a room like this, it can be easy to forget that climate action is about supporting communities in finding ways to build a brighter future. We all recognise the need for a positive message of change across local, state, regional and national levels. Without it, the risk of failure will be ever present. We're joined today by some of the most ambitious businesses that we partner with. And I'm delighted that Google and IKEA are here to share how they are building the demand signal that will help unlock the investments that usher in the era of renewable energy abundance. Our other division, apart from our under 2 alliance of subnational governments, is RE100, our global corporate renewable electricity campaign, which brings together the world's biggest and most influential businesses, all committed to using 100% renewable electricity in a timetable through to 2050 at the very latest. RE100 has grown to over 440 corporations across 140 markets. And we're talking about savings in terms of emissions that's larger than the annual electricity use of South Korea if RE100 was a country. So I guess just in finishing up, the message that I've been receiving in recent days is that we're involved not just in a race to tackle climate change. It's an opportunity to drive economic excellence and future profits. The noise from the fossil fuel lobby and their political cheerleaders can't disguise the fact that we are entering an era of renewable abundance, and the smartest businesses are embracing that. Anyone who raises the white flag now will eventually lose and be left behind. For too long, fossil fuel lobbyists found a willing ear among many politicians. Often you hear politicians say they can't be bought, but over the last few decades, certainly some can be rented in terms of their support for fossil fuels against the interests of their own nations. Climate Week New York City makes it clear that it makes business sense to embrace the inevitable future, not cling to a toxic past and the short-term goals of defeat. And just also finishing on a note from Australia, where I hope we'll see a COP in the not too distant future. But one of the things that we've had in Australia is climate wars going on for 20 years against climate deniers versus those who support climate action. Earlier this year, there was an election where business came out and the public of Australia basically came out and voted in a way that said, we're sick of these climate wars, let's just get on with it and power on. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much indeed for those comments.